Shabbat Shalom. It's Ebrahimoff, the Haftorahman. Good news. There's a special Haftorah this week. It's part of a 4-part series of Haftorot that are read during the time of Purim and before Pesach. They're called the 4 Parshiot, the Arba Parshiot. What are they? Let's start off with Shekalim. And this was the story of money. Then Zachor, about Amalek, and that was memory. Then you have Parah, mammals. And next week you have HaChodesh, the month. Break it down, it's the 4 M's. Money, memory, mammals, and month. And this is the one that we read about, the Parah. You see this oftentimes in the Near East, this fascination with cows. Egypt, you had the deities, the bull god. And then in Israel also, what did you have? Parah Adumah, you had Egel HaZahav. And then you go to India. What's this obsession with cows and bulls? So, if you go back 3,000, 4,000 years, let me just tell you how it was. If you had a cow, you had the best investment going. It was an agricultural society. And what did these animals represent? They were huge. What'd you do? You pour some water in them, and you gave them a little bit of grass to eat. What'd you get out? Here you go. Got the horns, you got the leather, you got milk, you got more cows, you got a whole big steak every night. It was the jackpot. You put very little in, you got a lot out. They would be able to pull and do the farming for you. These animals were great to have. So they were deified. They were made like gods and goddesses, these animals. This week, we have Parshas Parah. What was the Parah about? If you have Taryag Mitzvot, 613 commandments, you have 3 groupings. One grouping, logical commandments. Don't kill, don't steal. Okay, I can understand. That's an ethical monotheism. Now, what do you do about mitzvot that don't have any logic to them? Shatnez, kashrut. That you can say, this is a chok, this is an instruction from God that just says, listen, here's the Yud Kei Vav Kei test. You want to demonstrate that you believe in me? Do things that I ask you to do without it making any sense. Okay, that'll take you to 612 mitzvot. What about the last one? Well, it's Parah Adumah. It doesn't have any logic to it. As a matter of fact, let me explain what it was. We are commanded in the Torah to take a red cow, a red heifer, yes, a jidji, and what we would do is we would slaughter it and then burn it into ashes and mix the ashes with the water, and that this solution would be sprinkled on somebody that became tameh. In Judaism, as in other religions, you have holy men and you have a holy status. If you came in contact with a dead body or a dead person, that was just one way of you becoming impure. And from this impurity, you can't stay that way. You would go to the Kohen and you would say that I want to be sprinkled with the ash water of the Parah Adumah. And magically, you would have a reversal of your spiritual status. And that would mean that you went from being impure to pure. However, the bizarre thing is that if you came in contact with it when you were in a holy state, and you came in contact with it, it would reverse your state. It would make sense that if you took a potion, a medicine, and you weren't feeling well, it would make you feel good. But when do you take medicine when you feel good that makes you feel bad? It even puzzled King Solomon. But that was the magic of the Parah Adumah, of the red heifer, of the red cow. So why are we reading it this week? Hey, Pesach is coming. And when Pesach is coming, you have to get ready. Yes. How do you get ready? Oh, there were many preparations. One of the preparations is you had to be spiritually pure in order to give the Korban Pesach, to do the Korban Pesach, the sacrifice of Pesach. So here, we're reading this Shabbat, the Shabbat after Purim. You're reading the story of the Parsha portion about this red heifer. Okay, so now what? All Haftorahs are either thematically connected with the Parsha or these special Haftorot, like this one. This is a special one. Okay, let's go to the Haftorahman formula. Why are we reading it? It's a special week. Who's the prophet? Where did he live? When did he live? Anything famous said in his Haftarah? What's the story about, and what lesson do we learn? And we're going to finish this in less than 5 minutes. Okay, Yechezkel, Chazak El, God is strong. He was a Navi, he was a prophet. He lived in the time prior to and during the destruction of the Holy Temple. He was part of the prophets that were led to Babylonia, to Bavel, by Nebuchadnezzar. And while there, it was his job to make sure that people didn't adopt the god and goddesses of Babylonia. Remember in the olden times, when you were a kid, I'm 51, if you moved from Queens to Long Island, your area code would change from it was 212, even 718, and it changed to 516. Okay, now what? Yechezkel was concerned that the Jewish people would worship Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, Hashem, Elokim, in Israel. And then when they were exiled, what happened? The Navi was fearful. What if these people adopt the religion of the land? No good. So he says, we're going to tell the people that they're going back to the land of Israel. And in his book, you see at the beginning of Yechezkel's book, you see this Maaseh Merkavah, the Kabbalists meditate as if they're in God's heavenly chariot, that its footstool was the Beit HaMikdash. Then, in the middle part of Yechezkel's book, you have this famous story of the valley of the dry bones and the resurrection of the dead. And then at the end of his book, towards the end of the book, you have this messianic vision of the rebuilding of the third and final temple. So, there is so much information in the book of Yechezkel that they nearly left it out of the Tanakh. They nearly left it out of the books of the prophets because it contradicted what a Kohen should do in the Beit HaMikdash. The Torah said one thing, Yechezkel said another thing. It was rectified and it was resolved and he was included in it. Now, I mentioned, he started in Jerusalem, he went and he was buried in Babylonia. Next, how long ago did this happen? Well, we could put him at the 586 BCE mark, before the Common Era, where this was the destruction of the temple. So let's rough numbers, he lived about 2,600 years ago. So now, that's the preparation to hearing about the Haftarah. So it's Parshat Parah, and the Haftorah is from the book of Yechezkel in that part that it talks about what's going to happen in the future. Vayhi devar Hashem elai lemor. God spoke to me. We have this on our scrolls, that it says that men and women were spoken to by God. And he's referred to, Yechezkel is referred to as Ben Adam. Hey, what does that mean? The son of man. So why are they calling him that? Because he saw God's heavenly chariot. And they said, oh, the only one that could see that is a malach. And he's going, nice try. I'm just flesh and blood. Ani ben Adam. I'm a human being. The Mekubalim, the Kabbalists say, Ben Adam, shehu haya gilgul shel hevel, that he was a reincarnation of Adam, ben Adam, the son of Adam. Adam had Cain and Abel, that Yechezkel was the reincarnation. Yes, Jewish people believe both in resurrection and in reincarnation. And here you have saying Ben Adam. But what is it talking about? Ve'eshpoch chamasi aleihem. Wait a minute, sounds like the Haggadah to me. Why? What happened was here, on the Jewish people that didn't listen to what God said while they were in the land of Israel, God poured out his anger on them and exiled them out of the land of Israel. But here's a problem, logic problem. In those days, there were multiple gods that were acknowledged. My God and your God. My God is always better than your God. Today, God exists, God doesn't exist. It's not about a multiple God. Okay, so back then, what happened is when the Mesopotamian Empire, whether it be the Babylonians or the Syrians, carried out the Jewish people from Israel, they triumphed over them. And what happened is they would say, where's your God? And the answer, our God, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, had is, Lo lama'anchem, that here, ve'echmol al shem kodshi asher chililuhu beis Yisrael bagoyim asher bashama, that even though you, Jewish people, desecrated me, and I'm punishing you before that, but lochein emor leveis Yisrael kol Hashem Elokim lo lema'anchem. Whoa! We come from this reward and punishment paradigm. Paradigm has a Hebrew origin, dugma. We come from this paradigm. Why? Because your threat that works will be punished. That scares people. But here, it's not working anymore. So God is saying, I don't have time for you to do teshuvah. I don't have time. Why? Because the other nations are making fun of you. Ooh, where's your God? So God said, it is not because of your behavior, ke'im l'shem kadshi, I have to save my anthropomorphic face as far as all the other world religions are going, because they're saying, hey, you God of the Jews, what about your people? They're out here in exile. We moved them out. You ain't the almighty, all-powerful. So God is saying, not good enough. I will save you even though you don't deserve to be saved. I'm going to gather you in. Here's the promise of the kibbutz galuyot, if that the people are in gathering back into the land of Israel. Here's the reason why we read this Haftorah. V'zarakti alechem ma'im torim v'tihartem. And here in the Haftorah, it talks that I will sprinkle upon you the water that purifies you. Connection to the Parshas Parah. So now you have the connection. And the Haftorah continues that v'nasati lachem leiv chadash v'ruach chadasha. I'm going to give you a new heart. I'm going to give you a new spirit. And that he says, v'hasirosi as leiv ha'even. I am going to take away your hearts of stone. Yes, we've heard this, hearts of stone. And I will give back to you lachem leiv basar. What's that about? The people were recalcitrant. They were indifferent. They were damaged. And God said, I'm going to give you an emotional, spiritual heart transplant that you'll feel connected to God. We are reminded again, Lo l'ma'anchem, that I'm not doing this on your behalf. So what is the call? What is the cry? This is the Haftorah that we read before Pesach. And it is about cleaning out our spiritual closets. It's about getting rid of all the spiritual dirt. And it is about lifting ourselves up to be worthy, to be like the people that left Egypt and were being brought to the land of Israel, to be the holy nation of God, is the reason why we read this Haftorah. Shabbat Shalom. Enjoy the Haftorah.